What is going on, everybody? Been a diehard Pistons fan since '03 and eager to see this team getting back to playing winning basketball. We have some breaking news in the NBA that directly affects the Pistons for two different reasons. In this video, we are going to talk about that breaking news, how it affects the Pistons, and how it almost affected the Pistons even more than it actually did. So, anyways, to hop right into it, if you guys have not heard the news, Karl Anthony Towns was just traded from Minnesota to the New York Knicks for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and a first round pick from the Detroit Pistons. So, pretty crazy trade. Obviously, two all star calibers and a high end role player all a part of this deal. And that's a whole different discussion for somebody who covers the NBA as a whole. But let's talk about how this affects the Pistons. In reality, it really doesn't affect us that much in this case here because this pick had already been traded to New York ages ago. This pick that was a part of this deal was actually part of the Isaiah Stewart trade many years ago on draft night in 2020, and it's actually still protected. So pull up this tweet here from Pistons Thoughts. Great follow on Twitter. This pick is currently still protected for the next 3 years. If it falls 1 through 13 next year, the Pistons keep it, and then it rolls to the next year. The following year, if it falls between 1 and 11, the Pistons keep it, and then it rolls to the next year. And then finally, if it falls within the top 9 in 2027, the Pistons will keep the pick, and it will turn into a second rounder that we send their way. So essentially, not exactly, but realistically, whenever the Pistons finally make the playoffs again is when this pick will turn into a first round pick for now the Minnesota Timberwolves instead of the New York Knicks that originally would have been ours. So this pick has been tied up and all sorts of things for many years now and kind of tied our hands as far as trading future picks go as well, because in the NBA, in layman's terms, you can't trade two first round picks 2 consecutive years. So that has made us unable to trade our first round pick. Hypothetically, we couldn't have traded our draft pick this year that we used to select Ron Holland until we actually made the pick, because this pick could have hypothetically been a first round pick that's already been traded to the Knicks and now the Timberwolves this year. Kind of confusing. Long story short, on our end, nothing changes. The right to that pick just goes from the New York Knicks to the Timberwolves. But arguably, and in my opinion, definitely, the more important and more interesting part of this story is that a report shortly came out after the fact that said that the Detroit Pistons, along with the Miami Heat and Atlanta Hawks, had shown interest in Julius Randle before his trade to Minnesota. So I briefly want to touch on why I think they did that, how I would have felt if they did that. So why do I think they did that? I mean, the answer is pretty simple. We've talked about it for a long time on this channel. The Pistons definitely can use an all-star player on the roster. As of right now, there is no one on the Pistons roster who has ever been an all-star. Cade coming soon. But regardless, the Detroit Pistons definitely probably made a call or two on that. However, I don't think it would have made that much sense for a couple different reasons. Number one, Julius Randle is pretty much a 4 and a 4 only. I know that he has played some small ball 5 in certain lineups and probably on the 3 technically at certain points in his career as well. But the dude's a face-up 4 and more of a traditional 4 than most 4s in today's NBA. And the Detroit Pistons just brought in Tobias Harris this summer, and I feel like there is quite a bit of overlap with those two guys. Could they play together? Absolutely. They definitely could. But overall, definitely a bit of an overlap there for those two players. My biggest concern with it, I don't feel too strongly negatively about a lot of stars in the NBA, especially because Julius Randle is very talented, but I'm just not a fan of Julius Randle's game personally. There's a very short list of NBA stars that I am very below consensus on as far as evaluating them as a basketball player, and Julius Randle is on that short list for me. Reason being, I feel like the ball sticks in his hands a lot, and he is a talented passer, which is a shame because I feel like a lot of times he just takes too much time off the shot clock, facing up, trying to get to his spots in the mid range. And also, to talk about that with the Pistons, he does take up a lot of the spots on the floor where Cade likes to operate from as well, thinking, the elbow extended vertically and horizontally. So overall, all I'm going to say is I'm happy this trade didn't go through for the Pistons. That's about as harsh as you'll ever hear me talk about another star caliber player in the NBA. Not a fan of Julius Randle's game. I'm definitely not going to ever discredit it, say he's a bad player, say he's a bum, or anything even close to that. The dude is all-star talent, no doubt. But it would have just been a tough pill for me to swallow if the Pistons would have went out and got Julius Randle, because it definitely feels like it would have been a premature move. And considering that the package that they got in return consisted of Cat, despite them also giving up DiVincenzo and a first-round pick potentially, the price tag would have been pretty high. So if the Pistons would have sent out a haul of young players to go get Julius Randle, considering how I feel about him as a player personally, considering how he would have fit with Cade and Tobias currently, and considering the price tag that we would have had to pay, all I'm going to say is it is a good day to not be a part of a trade in the NBA for the Pistons, in my opinion. So that's just where I fall on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Would have you been happy if the Pistons made a deal to go get Julius Randle? But be realistic about it, because if they did, the package would have probably been something sort of crazy. Thinking something like Asar, Duran, and beef stew or something like that. And it would have probably had to take another team, because the Knicks probably wouldn't have been interested in so many young players. So it would have had to get pretty crazy. The price tag would have been steep. But let me know what you guys think. Would have you been happy for the Pistons to really throw in a Godfather offer to go get Julius Randle? Or are you like me and feel like this would have been a bad idea? Also, if you guys are new here, please subscribe. I typically don't ask that in videos anymore, but I did roll out of bed at 11:28 p.m. on a Friday night to record this video, because this trade had two different things involving the Pistons. The Pistons pick on the move, not that is that relevant to us, but also the fact that this report came out saying the Pistons were showing interest in Julius Randle. And in case you guys are wondering, this report is very legit. It came from Ian Begley, I think it's pronounced. I'm not super familiar with him, but what I do know is that he's been a Knicks insider and reporter for a long time, and I can confidently say that this little post here has some truth to it. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch up with y'all soon. Have a good night.